Welcome back to the Death of William Douglas, episode number 2. The next I remember, I was lying on my stomach beside the pool vomiting. The chap that threw me in was saying, "But I was only fooling," someone said. "The kid nearly died. Be alright now. Let's carry him to the locker room." Several hours later, I walked home. I was weak and trembling. I shook and cried when I lay on my bed. I couldn't eat that night. For days, a haunting fear was in my heart. The slightest exertion upset me, making me wobbly in the knees and sick to my stomach. After that water accident, for many days, even the slightest exertion upset him. He was not able to stand up because his knees were wobbly. I never went back to the pool. I feared water. I avoided it whenever I could. A great water phobia clutched him. He was not able to see water. He was not able to experience water anymore. A few years later, when I came to know the waters of the Cascades, I wanted to get into them. And whenever I did, whether I was wading the Titan or bumping river or bathing in a warm lake of the God Rakes, the terror that had seized me in the pool would come back. Every time when he was about to get into the water, that terror that took over him years back, that comes back and that seizes him. It would take possession of me completely. My legs would become paralyzed. Icy horror would grab my heart. This handicap stayed with me as the years rolled by. In canoes on Maine lakes fishing for landlocked salmon, bass fishing in New Hampshire, trout fishing on the Deschutes and Metolius in Oregon, fishing for salmon on the Columbia, at Bumping Lake in the Cascades, wherever I went. The haunting fear of the water followed me. It ruined my fishing trips, deprived me of the joy of canoeing, boating, swimming. He was not able to enjoy any sort of water sports. When he found all other people having fruitful, enjoyable time with water sports, he was denied of anything. I used every way I knew to overcome this fear, but it held me firmly in its grip. Finally, one October, I decided to get an instructor and to learn swimming. I went to a pool and practiced 5 days a week, an hour each day. The instructor put a belt around me. A rope attached to the belt went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. He held on to the end of the rope, and we went back and forth across the pool, hour after hour, day after day, week after week. On each trip across the pool, a bit of the panic seized me. Each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and I went under, some of the old terror returned and my legs froze. It was 3 months before the tension began to slack. Then he taught me to put my face under water and exhale, and to raise my nose and inhale. I repeated the exercise hundreds of times. Bit by bit, I shed part of the panic that seized me when my head went underwater. This paragraph is significant in the sense this instructor was appointed. The instructor started giving special coaching in swimming. At first, the training session was in a small pool. One rope was attached to the belt around his waist, and this rope was passing through a pulley, and the other end of the rope was in the hand of this instructor. The instructor would simply loosen this rope and he will tighten it, and every time when he was about to get drowned, he saved him by doing this, by having a control over his body with the help of this pulley, cable, and all. Instructor was able to make this person feel slightly ease at water, and he also gave him training on how to exhale, how to inhale when he was in water, and bit by bit, he just simply let him to shut down parts of this water fear. Next, he held me at the side of the pool and had me kick with my legs. For weeks, I did just that. At first, my legs refused to work, but they gradually relaxed, and finally, I could command them. Thus, piece by piece, he built a swimmer. And when he had perfected each piece, he put them together into an integrated whole. In April, he said, "Now you can swim. Dive off and swim the length of the pool. Crawl stroke." Months. He might have taken months to take the practice. And when the practice session was over, his teacher wanted him to swim the length of the pool, crawl stroke. I did. The instructor was finished. I was able to swim. The instructor was sent off. But I was not finished. I still wondered if I would be terror stricken when I was alone in the water. I tried it. I swam the length up and down. Tiny vestiges of the old terror would return. But now I could frown and say to that terror, trying to scare me? Well, here is to you. Look. And off I'd go for another length of the pool. Every time, when the terror returned his mind, he just challenged it by saying that I will be able to. He just made himself feel that, believe that, and he just swam the length of the pool. This went on until July, but I was still not satisfied. I was not sure that all the terror had left. So I went to the Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, dived off a dock at the Triggs Island, and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stamback Island. I swam the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke, and backstroke. Only once did the terror return. He was not giving up anyway. He wanted to make sure that he did not have any small slice of terror upon him. He just tried every possible water bodies and he just tried swimming over there. When he did all this once, at least once, the terror returned. When I was in the middle of the lake, the terror returned. I put my face under water and saw nothing but bottomless water. The old sensation returned and miniature. The old terror came back to him once, but he tried. I laughed and said, well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me? It fled, the terror fled, and I swam on. Yet I had residual doubts. At my first opportunity, I hurried west, went up the Titan to Conrad Meadows, up the Conrad Creek Trail to Meat Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of the warm lake. The next morning I stripped, dived into the lake, and swam across to the other shore and back, just as Doc Corporation used to do. I shouted with joy, and Gilbert Pig returned the echo. I had conquered my fear of water. The experience had a deep meaning for me, as only those who have known stark terror and conquered it can appreciate it. In death there is peace. There is terror only in the fear of death, as Roosevelt knew when he said, all we have to fear is fear itself. Because I had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce, the will to live somehow grew in intensity. At last I felt released, free to walk the trails and climb the peaks and to brush aside fear. All we have to fear, fear itself. All we have to fear in this world is fear itself. Who said? Franklin D. Roosevelt, American president. Anyway, at the end of it, we catch up like this. If our desires, intentions are intense, any hardship, any struggles, any shortcoming in our life can be overcome. And we will be able to brush aside our fear. We will be able to tread along the path. Sure, that's the message we get out of it. Thank you.